This week, the Times newspaper reported on this case of Farah Shaheen, a 12-year-old schoolgirl in Pakistan. She was kidnapped, married, allegedly raped, and converted after being shackled by her hands and feet. She was rescued by police last month, but no charges have been brought against her abductor. According to unverified reports, about 1,000 girls and women from religious minorities, mainly Christians and Hindus, are abducted, forcibly converted, and forcibly married in Pakistan every year. These reports further suggest that some of the victims are divorced and abandoned after a few years, and others are trafficked for sexual exploitation. The problem is growing and requires an urgent investigation and inquiry. A number of laws have been enacted in Pakistan to prevent child marriages. For example, the Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929 and the Sindh Child Marriage Restraint Act of 2014, which raised the legal minimum age of marriage for boys and girls to 18 in the Sindh province. But these haven't been implemented properly, especially in the cases of forced conversions of young girls from the minority communities. Pakistan is a party to several international treaties which impose duties on Pakistan to protect the girls from such abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages. These include the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child. Article 14 specifically says this: states shall respect the right of a child to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Apart from the laws, the law enforcement system also poses challenges for the families who are seeking help. According to reports, the police often either refuse to record a first information report, the first and most important document in the criminal justice system in Pakistan, or record it as a less serious offence, which in turn means that the parents are not able to pursue the cases in court. These abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages have long-lasting, devastating, profound effects not only on the lives of girls, but also on their families and on whole communities. The parents, once they hear of such cases, try to restrict their daughters' freedom to attend school. Sometimes they might also opt for an early marriage to prevent such abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages. Early marriage deprives the female of education, economic opportunities, social advancement, and good health. This results in the vicious circle of limited education, early marriage and children, family poverty, and the resulting need for children to go to work rather than to attend school. In 2019, after I made a visit to Pakistan, the all-party parliamentary group for Pakistan minorities, of which I'm co-chair at Westminster, published a report and identified the issue of abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages as one which warranted urgent attention, and it made several recommendations which could alleviate or at least seriously reduce the problem. However, the government of Pakistan has thus far failed to take any serious initiatives to tackle the problem. Recently, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, the problem has simply worsened, with an increase in abductions of girls, some as young as 12 or 14. Hence the need for this inquiry. Let me tell you about the aims of the inquiry. Firstly, it will be to analyse the scope of the issue and to examine whether such abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages are a problem of religious minority girls only, or affecting perhaps all girls. Secondly, to map the effects of abductions, forced conversions, and marriages on the girls, on their emotional state, their mental health, and their physical health, the impact on their families and communities. Thirdly, to examine how this practice affects the victims' education, their future job opportunities, their social status, and their future within their community. Fourthly, to identify the weaknesses and limitations of the existing laws. Fifthly, to discover the problems with implementation of existing laws in Pakistan, which should, in theory, prohibit or restrict marriages of underage girls. Sixthly, to gather legal and other solutions which could then in turn be adopted to prevent abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages. And finally, seventhly, to make recommendations to the Pakistani government, as well as the United Kingdom government, about how to combat this practice. So what's the timetable for evidence gathering, and how can you play your part? The evidence gathering process will include an open call for written evidence and oral hearings. The written evidence should be sent by the 15th of February 2021. A panel will also hear oral evidence during February and publish its findings and recommendations in 2021. Evidence will be gathered from relevant stakeholders, including non-governmental organizations, faith and non-faith-based groups, experts and victims and their families, wherever that's safe and appropriate. The responses should be emailed to the Secretariat of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Pakistan Minorities, and that's Mr. Maurice Johns. His email address is mauricejohns50 The word limit for submissions is 1,500 words. The deadline for written submissions to the inquiry is the 15th of February 2021. Suitable arrangements, including anonymity, will be made for those wishing to give oral evidence. We hope that the inquiry will not only help the victims, girls like 12-year-old Farah Shaheen, and others from Pakistan's minority communities, but it will also help the government of Pakistan to address what surely we can all agree is an urgent problem which does desperately need to be addressed. Thank you for listening.